Are you one of the many busy professionals working in offices day in and day out? Do you wonder how some people grow their wealth fast, retire early, and play on workdays? Well, you're in luck, because Ginny Bolling hosts this show, Pivot to Prosperity, where she interviews people that can do just that, play on workdays. Many guests have become financially free. She also interviews people that are on their journey and people that are in support roles, like attorneys, contractors, brokers, and others. Commercial real estate is the common element. She is on a mission to be sure busy professionals know they can own substantial commercial properties too, like apartments, self-storage facilities, and others, and not have to do the work managing them. Passive investing is the key. Syndications are the typical method. Tax write-offs are some of the biggest rewards. Ginny and partners find the deals, build a strong team and business plan, then offer the investment opportunities to passive investors. New episodes are released every Tuesday at 12, so watch for new releases. If you want to get involved, let us know. You need to get pre-qualified to hear about most deals. See the show notes for contact information.
Hello, Ginny Bolling here, and today I have for us Whitney Elkins-Hutton to join us. Thank you for coming, Whitney.
Thank you so much for having me back on.
Yeah, the second time. I'm very happy to have you, and that's because we didn't get a chance to talk about your book, How to Build and Protect Generational Wealth. I think that there's going to be a lot to be gained for people from talking about this. But first, let me read your bio, and then we'll go from there. Feel free to think about and add to your bio as you hear it too. Whitney Elkins-Hutton is the founder of Ash Wealth Consulting and director of investor education at passiveinvesting.com. She hosts the Passive Investing Made Simple podcast and is a partner in 800 million in real estate assets, including 6,500 residential units, 2,200 self-storage units, and more than 5 million in fix and flip properties. After hitting a home run with her first rental property and nearly losing it on a second deal, Whitney turned to wealth creation strategies to build sturdy financial freedom for herself and her family. Whitney is now on a mission to help families implement sound financial principles to create passive income and long-term wealth for generations to come. Whitney currently lives in Boulder, Colorado, and she enjoys trail running, traveling, photography, craft beers, and playing board games with family and friends. All right. So we were just talking before we came on the air about your upcoming run. Why don't you talk a bit about that?
Oh my goodness. Yes, it is racing season right now. And I have a race this weekend. It's called the Imogene Pass Run. And it's slated to go from Ouray to Telluride, though they just alternated, created an alternative course for us because the road washed out. But we start at just under 8,000 feet, go up to about 13,000 feet, and then down, of course, we have to come back down on off the mountain. So anyways, it's beautiful fall colors. I know so many people think I'm completely crazy, and I'm like, but when you get up there, it's just stunningly gorgeous. And so you're just completely like awe-inspired and motivated the whole entire time you're running.
So how many people come from out of town and can't handle the elevation though? Is that common?
Well, a lot. So, I have friends of mine that have done that race like 3 or 4 times. I mean, I think once you do it once, you're just like, the first time you're just looking around, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm running amongst like 13,000 and 14,000 foot peaks. And you just have to take in the scenery. The second time you do it, you're like, okay, I'm ready to actually like run the race and see if I can compete. But yeah, a lot of people come in from, out of town and sea level. It is a very competitive race to get into. You don't have to have any qualifications, other you have to be able to get up at 6 a.m. on June 1st in order to register, and hopefully like you get in. But I mean, people get up to 13,000 foot, in elevation, and if they haven't trained for it, I've seen delirium. I've seen, people go down, it is a real thing. Just because you're running a race in a very beautiful time of year, it doesn't take away from the fact that you have to train for the altitude.
How do people do that on the flats? Like we're in Florida. Is there a way to do it?
Well, some people will actually come in early and acclimate and do some training runs. So if they, have flexible work, they can come in a week or 2 early. If they can't, sometimes you can actually use the heat in order to build blood volume, but you still have to be able to find an incline to run. So, whether it's doing hill repeats or getting on a treadmill where you can put it on a steep incline, say like 9 to 13, 15%, in some cases, 20%, incline,
that's probably what people do, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't, the only thing about doing a treadmill now, most of the time you're probably indoors, and now you have, you don't have the right elements that you're battling. And so, battling the heat whenever you run can be a great mimic for altitude.
Good to know. Good to know. I have some friends that run, but yeah, I don't think they've been over to that one. But so anyway, tell us about your book.
Yeah, so the book Money for Tomorrow: How to Build and Protect Generational Wealth. I wrote it in collaboration with Bigger Pockets. It came out this year, so I'm super excited about it. The book is really geared for, anyone who wants to build a financial foundation so they can invest from a position of strength and then grow that foundation, grow their wealth, and be able to create multi-generational wealth, either for themselves or for their families. And, the book is really designed to be an end-to-end blueprint. It's a blueprint that I wish that I had whenever I was understanding personal finance and growing my own personal real estate holdings. The premise of the book originally was born out of a blueprint that I was creating for my daughter to be able, teachings that I wanted her to know, the framework that I wanted her to know in case she inherited our portfolio super early, or which heaven forbid, we hope that doesn't happen, but we can't control necessarily everything, right? We can only influence. But if the off chance that something disastrous happened and she needed to be able to recreate or build from the ground up again, that she would have those teachings and that blueprint in front of her. And, as I say it kind of tongue in cheek, go out and make her own mistakes, right? I wanted her to understand how money works, understand how to keep it. And I don't mean just budgeting. I mean, really understand how to keep money and create velocity with it, how to grow it, and then also be able to keep it and create a wealth generation plan for her and her family moving forward. And as I started talking to investors, the light bulb came on for me while I was struggling with this personally. So many other people were too. They were like, well, okay, if you have a framework, will you share it with me? Will you coach me? Will you mentor me? Will you show me how to do this? I'm a passive investor too. I want to learn exactly what you've done. And how you are navigating this really tumultuous environment from a position of strength and not fear. And so that book really is kind of the culmination of all that work.
That's fantastic. And in this promo material that summaries of the book, you have learn a simple math equation to help you realize all of your assets' highest potential. That's quite enticing sounding. Build an impenetrable shield to safeguard your wealth from everyday threats. Eliminate the forces ending your finances so you can build your wealth faster. Avoid common mistakes so you can intelligently pass down your wealth. Craft a blueprint to ensure your wealth endures for future generations. This is fantastic. So I appreciate that. And I do need to get the book myself. I didn't get a chance to yet, but I wanted to have you on the show and share it with people. And so tell us what generational wealth is so that everybody is on the same page, okay?
Yeah, so generational wealth the definition might kind of alter, person to person, but in the end, what are most people seeking? They're seeking to be able to do what they want, when they want, with whom they want. And not only for themselves, but to be able to set up the next generation to be able to do the same. Now, we could, do all that work for them. I encourage that we actually teach them how to steward that wealth, right? We don't want our family to go from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, which is really about what it takes. And it's because, say our generation learns how to build a wealth, like we're building the companies, building the portfolios, we're being super scrappy. The next generation benefits from it, but they're now a generation removed. They haven't really understood, or potentially, depending on how their parents and, their predecessors trained them, they didn't understand what all it took, the mindset, the skills, the network it took to build a wealth. And then when they pass it on to the next generation, of course, now that generation is now 2 times removed, and they go and spend it, and we can see those examples in history and in our environment everywhere. I mean, it's, it's why, I don't mean to pick on like the Vanderbilts, but, we talk about the Rothschilds and the Carnegies way more than we talk about the Vanderbilts. And it's for a very specific reason. It's because, the other two families had an educational system, not just the money, but the educational system in place, the skills, the blueprint to be able to teach the next generation. So if we're talking about generational wealth, let's bring it back down to something that's really tangible. If it were a game, you have to understand the objective of the game, the rules, and now the strategies on how to play. Think of Monopoly, okay? Generational wealth is like Monopoly. What are we trying to do? Create enough money, we can do what we want, when we want, with whom we want, and the next generation can do the same. They can steward that. They know what to do. The rules are pretty simple. Bucket them into 4 different rules. You have to understand how to create wealth. Okay, how does money actually work? What are those fundamental skills that everybody that has wealth has to be able to master? And it's like coaching soccer, right? Like everybody wants to learn the bicycle kick and all the fancy moves, right? That's like growing wealth, right? But you actually have to know how to run around the field, pass the ball, take a nice strong shot on goal in order to win the game. You have to practice those foundation fundamentals. Okay, then we have to understand how to keep wealth. Okay, how do we play defense? And I think a lot of people equate keeping wealth to, I'm budgeting now, I'm trying to cut my travel and my dining out and all this. No, I come at it from a way, how do we align what your personal value system is with the things that you want to spend your money on? Okay, and again, this is where personal wealth becomes very personal. All right, and then there's 6 ways that everybody should be mastering, in order to keep their wealth. And we touch on that in the book. And we can dive down any rabbit hole that we want to. And then we learn how to grow wealth. What are the basic principles, that everybody that, all the billionaires and millionaires, what have they mastered? What have they done really well? Like, what are the lens that they're looking at their investments? They're not chasing headlines. They're not chasing the next hot stock pick. I mean, they might, but that's not how they built their core wealth. Their core wealth is based on principles. It's solid. Like if the market goes up, down, or sideways, they're generally not sweating it if they did it correctly. And then we talk about how to pass wealth on. And a lot of people think about, well, okay, I got a will or a trust in place, but that's not really where we want to start. And that's just one tool to help us navigate the legal system. I'm talking about what are the things that you have to have in place before even thinking about a will and a living trust? What are the foundational documents that actually support your living will and trust, that help train your executor, help train your heir, help pass on that knowledge and education to the next generation? That's what passing on generational wealth actually means. And again, this book is meant to walk somebody from the beginning all the way through, kind of like their investing career. And I guarantee you, I have yet to run into an investor that has been in the game for 20 years that could not benefit from something in this book that's helped seal their financial foundation and made them a much stronger investor, especially in this environment.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of good knowledge in this thing. So you've no doubt given the copy to your daughter. You have one daughter?
I have one daughter, yes.
Okay. And has she read it yet? It's
yes.
Good, right? Oh, okay.
She's like, yeah. I read it, she's read through the material multiple times. She actually designed the cover she didn't do the actual artwork, but the cover design, that idea was actually hers. And you know what she said whenever I submitted her cover design, to the editor, and they came back and they said they were going to select it. She goes, "Mom, can I get royalties now?"
Good for her.
I was like, "That's my girl, passive streams of income, right?"
Right, right. That's terrific. So, give us some insight into, for instance, passive streams of income that you highlight in this. Is that a good thing to pick out?
Yeah, so I mean that really taps into the third rule, right? And this is where a lot of investors they get decent at understanding the foundational skills they need to have in place. Okay. I wouldn't say good. They don't have clear goals. They don't have a clear path to success. And they don't know how to measure where they're currently at and where they need to go, right? Like, so start there. Then they want to jump right to like, okay, let's create all these passive streams of income. Well, we actually might need to focus on the other two rules first if we're going to be totally successful. But the sexy topic is, what are we going to invest in now? We start saving all this cash. We gotta get it invested. Okay, so we'll talk about the sexy topic first. So you need to look for, it's not so much what to invest in, but what makes a good investment. Okay. And so if we're going to build the foundational wealth, right, your core portfolio should be invested in assets that preserve capital, create cash flow, take advantage of the equity build, whether it's natural, forced depreciation, or tenant pay down. Okay. And tax benefits. Those are the four core that are going to really accelerate your growth. Okay. We've got three other, core pillars that are kind of like accelerants on the fire. Say like, pouring gasoline on the fire. That is, we can accelerate it, that growth by using smart use of leverage. But, we've learned in the past 24 months, or I shouldn't say we've learned, we've always known, but I think we relearned the lesson. A lot of investors relearn this lesson that leverage can cut both ways, right? It can help accelerate growth. It can also erode wealth too. So we want to use it wisely. And then, you can either be the operator of your asset. It's investing with amazing operators. Either you need to be the amazing operator or you need to know how to vet amazing operators and invest in them. So those are some of the core pillars that make a solid investment. Now, you might be able to go on somebody's on the web and pull down somebody's due diligence checklist, especially if they're learning to invest in passive real estate or something like that. That's my love, is passive real estate. And their due diligence checklist, whether it's in passive real estate or a business or a franchise, they're assessing those pillars. So whatever due diligence checklist you're looking at, reorganize the checklist to make sure it matches those categories. Okay. Otherwise, all you're doing is running a 100-point inspection on a business, and you might check 99 or 90 out of 100 boxes, but there might be 10 boxes that aren't checked in a specific category, and that can set you up for failure. So that is what we're looking for, is those assets that preserve capital, create cash flow, create equity growth, create tax benefits. Okay. Especially those four, has some additional accelerants to them. What does that leave us with? Well, largely a lot of things in real estate, in business. Okay. It does not necessarily leave us with the stock market or cryptocurrency or holding cash or cash arbitrage. Not to say that those aren't good investments or don't have a role in somebody's portfolio, but we have to think of that more as momentum investing, because we're giving up a foundational pillar to be in that type of asset. Okay. So the core pillar, if you're really building foundational wealth, if you want to be able to navigate markets, whether they're going up, down, or sideways, you want to be able to sleep well at night, you need to get really good, really savvy at evaluating assets that hit those core pillars.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yes. I think that that's probably some way to look at it that a lot of people don't, but organizing those due diligence checklists, I'll have to look back at mine and see. I don't think it's organized that way, but it makes sense to do it that way.
I mean, I can give a couple of examples. I mean, I work with investors, I coach and mentor investors in this, and I share with them, I walk them through like the entire blueprint. I mean, I can only put so much information in Money for Tomorrow, but I put in some of the, I mean, that book is going to get you 80, 85% of the way there. Like now, for my own personal experience, some of my early investments, I mean, it's not a matter of if you're going to have an investment that experiences trouble, it's a matter of when. I can trace back exactly some of those early investments that faltered, or like, you know, in a note that I lost money on. I can go back and I could be like, wow, I was amazing at understanding how it created, you know, could potentially, you know, protect capital, create cash flow, didn't create you know, equity growth. And oh, by the way, the operator had skill in this other area and not in this area, and those skills didn't translate. And so I gave up 2 of the core 4 pillars here. It also didn't create the tax benefits. And so if something goes awry, I mean, I just kind of like cut my chances of success in half. And so, you know, I can attribute to all of like, you know, again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If you're going to have an investment that breaks even or like loses money, you know, I can attribute, you know, a lot of those issues to, you know, not abiding by those pillars of success.
Right. Yeah, no, that's very true. And it is funny how we go through looking at different investments and try to do that risk reward balancing act. And a lot of people are at a loss for figuring how to mitigate. And there's lots of strategies for that as well. Do you get into some of that in this too?
Yeah, definitely. And we continue to look at the risk mitigation through that lens of each of those different areas, right? You know, if we're talking about how does it preserve capital, that section of the book will walk you through, you know, what are the reserves on this asset? You know, what is the market like? You know, are we on the, you know, which part of the market are we in? The recovery? Are we in the expansion phase? Are we in the hyper supply phase? Are we in the recessionary phase? And here's the thing, is markets are local. Okay. Even though we're talking about the global macroeconomics of the, you know, the United States, you know, we might be saying we're like, you know, in hyper supply in a recessionary environment right now, but that doesn't necessarily overlay on the local markets. Local markets are going to cycle a little bit differently and maybe asynchronous to the macroeconomic there. So, you know, we have to get good at digging through at the deal level, like what is happening at the market level, what is happening. And so, you know, within each category, you know, I give examples of the things that you should be looking for and looking out for. And we break that down per category. That way, when you're crafting your checklist, you can grade each category on, you know, is that deal successful at guarding that pillar of wealth or not? Whereas, again, like if, you know, I've seen 100-point due diligence checklist for private equity real estate deals, and, you know, they're amazing, but they're not organized necessarily in a logical manner to set you up for success, right? Let's reorganize the categories. Take your current due diligence checklist, you know, and you reorganize it, rewind the past like 5 minutes, go back, reorganize your due diligence checklist according to these categories. Do you have enough questions to be able to mitigate risk in that category? That would be number 1. Okay. Do you understand that, you know, are you asking enough questions to understand how it preserves your capital, creates cash flow for you, you know, protects tax benefits for you? If you don't, first step, flesh out the category. Okay. Do you understand how it risk mitigates? Okay. You know, for something to go wrong. So understanding how it preserves capital is one thing. How it risk mitigates, that's a separate set of questions. Okay. And then come up with a grade. And I guarantee you, when I walk people through this exercise, I'll do generally a 1 boot camp a year while I have people bring in all their due diligence checklists. I'll have them reorganize everything. And everybody was like, oh, snap. my checklist fails in this area, this area, and this area. And I'm like, okay, that's just 3 wealth pillars there. You're asking amazing questions, but you're failing to ask the right questions in these 3 areas. Let's bolster it for you. Okay.
Yeah, so my checklists are primarily geared towards the phase, at the different places of the property and the process. It's very much geared towards the operator, as opposed to we're trying to show this because our limited partners are the critical ones, but it has to meet their personal finance goals. So why share
Absolutely.
our checklist isn't going to help them assess it for them the way I
Not
probably have it, the way you're so true, so true. So yeah, very good. And so you mentioned one boot camp a year, huh? You do have following for pulling people together in person?
Yeah, so at passiveinvesting.com, I actually do a wealth of, financial, specifically geared to passive investing real estate. So, if somebody is, looking for to learn all the ins and outs of passive investing and build these skills in passive investing specifically, they can check me out there. But one of the boot camps that I do per year is really focused on actually the how to analyze the deal. Like, how are we matching our due diligence checklist to these wealth pillars? And just to echo what you said, that is probably the number one mistake that I see investors make, passive investors specifically, is when you're an active investor, you're in the day-to-day, rigmarole of it all. Okay. Yes, you can still go in with very unclear goals, not understanding what you need from the project. That still happens. It happens all the time. But as passive investors, you're now giving up day-to-day operational control. And if you are borrowing somebody else's investing plan, borrowing somebody else's due diligence checklist, I guarantee they're not going to exactly align to what your investing thesis, what your goals, your risks, your timeline is, your time horizon. And that's where investors get in trouble. And it usually happens to newer investors. They get into 1 or 2 deals, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I thought I was supposed to be getting cash flow from this deal, and I'm not going to get cash for a year? What happened? It was just like, wait a second. Okay, you took a checklist, somebody else's checklist that didn't need cash flow. They wanted equity growth. All right. And then you didn't make it your own. You didn't fill in the right questions here. And so now you're not what we call business aligned to the deal. And so that's a pretty common mistake. And it's one that I'm very passionate about helping investors not make.
Yeah,
Because
that's a huge one. Yeah, it is.
it's truly unnecessary. But again, it goes back to that kind of mindset, that wealth building mindset. A lot of people, they get money in their pocket or they learn about passive investing. They're like, oh man, I got money sitting in the bank. I'm losing to inflation. I have to get it invested right now. And they don't take that long-term cathedral thinking about it. I mean, if you go think back, like cathedrals were built over lifetimes. The person who's leading the foundational bricks never saw the spire being placed on the top of the cathedral. It might be 1 or 2 generations removed. Some of these cathedrals, like the Duomo in Florence, I mean, I looked it up, it took like 150 years. I mean, you've got, 3 generations of people working on this cathedral. So you have to go in with that kind of mindset. Not that it's going to take 150 years to build and scale your portfolio. That's not what I'm saying, but take a longer term. If it takes you 6 months to learn how to ask the right question, dig in and build these skills, take 6 months.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I promise you it will be well worth it.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. So, and do you have checklists in your book too? Is there some of that?
Yeah, there's reference to tools. That's also, there's in the mentoring program that, because like I said, I can only fit so much into a book. But in our mentoring program, also, if you're just very only passive investing specific, I share a wealth of tools at passiveinvesting.com as well. But at the end of every chapter in the book, there is a checklist of like, okay, let's go back and, do these 4 steps that were in the 20 pages beforehand, ideally before you move forward. Okay, let's take action. Maybe it takes you a day or 2 to take action on all these things, but let's build the plan together so you can see progress.
Gotcha. Right, right. Well, that's great. That really is. I was just thinking that we should probably even tell people where to buy it. And is it on Amazon, or where do you prefer people buy it? Put it that way.
If you get it from biggerpockets.com, Money for Tomorrow, on biggerpockets.com, their Bigger Pockets puts together some free resources that go along with the book. You can also get the book off at amazon.com. Some people love listening to it on Kindle. And you can also check out ashwealth.com if you'd like as well.
And the free resources, are they only on Bigger Pockets, or are they on all places?
Bigger Pockets. Yeah, if you go to ashwealth.com, I do a lot of free mentoring there. I mean, if you join our email list, we dive into some of these topics a little bit deeper, and I do like a weekly, educational class there as well that's focused on the core foundation. Like, how do we build that financial foundation? Or if you're a seasoned investor, what does a financial foundation actually look like, and what should you have in place so you can invest from confidence? And then we layer on various skills throughout the year. And then, of course, if you're somebody who wants to go further, faster, and really learn all the skills in a very short amount of time, and dig deep and personalize it to your own personal situation, you can check me out at ashwealth.com, and I have a one-on-one mentoring program there as well.
Great. Well, I will be sure to share that with people as well. And so tell people how, well, before I do that, let me ask you, do you work with fund managers as well? Because they're considered passive. I am doing some of that as well, or beginning to do some of that as well. Do you look at fund managers as passive, or how do you view them?
In my work at Ash Wealth, this is really targeted to the individual investor.
Yeah.
But here's the cool thing is that almost all the skills that you learn in the book or at Ash Wealth translate into business.
Right. Yes.
And so and what usually happens, somebody is really good at, executing on a lot of these skills for their business. If they own the business, or if they're an entrepreneur in somebody else's business, they're really good at executing on these skills. But when it comes to doing this for their own personal selves, I have yet to run into somebody that does this for themselves. It's so weird what we will do for other people and not for ourselves. Now, if you're a fund manager that's looking to bolster your financial foundation, the book is for you. You as a fund manager, we learned in the past 12 to 24 months, if you're raising capital, that those resources can be scarce in down times. And so, when investors get nervous, and if that is your source of income, if you're getting the carried interest, if you need that monthly income coming in, let's optimize your own personal situation and your finances and make sure that you're running your business from a place of strength. Now, if you're a fund manager that's looking to place capital into a passive deal, yes, reach out to me at Passive Investing with Whitney.com, or you can email me at Whitney@passiveinvesting.com. There could be an opportunity there for us to collaborate on future deals.
Right. Okay. Very good. Well, we will put all your contact information in the show notes. And is there anything you want to add here, since we're just wrapping it up now?
I think the take-home message is get really good at the 2 areas of personal finance that most people neglect, which is understanding how to keep money. Which, if you're in today's market, we're recording this September 4th. I mean, everybody in 2024, everybody's got their fingers crossed that Jerome Powell is going to drop interest rates, and then the floodgates are going to open again, and all these deals are going to start getting done again. This is still an amazing time to optimize not only your personal finances, but your business, because now you're going to be moving forward so much more streamlined. And so we cover a lot of those ways to really optimize your business in, the section 2 of Money for Tomorrow. And then think about that. I hate calling it end of life, because we need to think ahead of what could go wrong, put those tools in place. But then, we were talking before the show, so much of what I teach on how to pass wealth on, yes, we're putting together those tools. We're utilizing those tools for the oh, what if I become incapacitated or I die? But a lot of those tools can actually be used today in your day-to-day life, and make your lives so much more clear. And especially if you're investing with a spouse or a significant other, or even a business partner, having these tools in place, understanding how to create an emergency binder and I love you plan, having those tools in place can just, again, make you be able to invest from a position of strength.
Right. And we had talked also quite a bit before airing that we don't, if the next generation ends up where, or if something happens where that monetary resource gets depleted or run down so much, that you want the next generation to be able to have a roadmap and to rebuild.
Oh yeah, I mean, if my husband and I got hit by a bus, well, actually, I'll just put it this way. If I got hit from a bus, by a bus, my husband can pick up my book, and I feel very confident that he would fill in the gaps of whatever skills he doesn't know right now and could steward what we have. If something should happen to both of us, my daughter would be able to, we have safeguards in place for the trust and the portfolio to manage itself for the next 10 to 15 years, until she is proven not worthy, that's kind of like
Oh, whoops.
she has the skills in place to be able to manage that appropriately. So the book is a great starter for that, for sure.
Right. People could put that right in your book in with their book. Probably.
Yeah, I have yet to have anybody I think that's an amazing idea. Get Money for Tomorrow and put it in your emergency binder. Like, if you don't have time to train your kid, because what if you have young kids and they're 4? Yes, you can start training them right now. You could start, playing cash flow for kids. You can read them The Richest Man in Babylon. There's so many amazing, tools for younger kids. My friend Maya Korbrick has a book from Piggy Bank Stocks that, teach, the first thing they're going to learn about is inflation. So my daughter, who's 12, read that book this summer. She was like, okay, it was a little beneath me, but she was like, now I understand what's going on in today's environment. She was like, holy smokes, inflation is robbery. And I'm like, I know, my head's exploding. But so, you can start putting these tools in place. And that is, I'll give a writer downer for anybody, who's still hanging with this right now. Right? If you have a will or trust, write a purpose statement. Okay. And in that purpose statement, you define why you created the portfolio the way you did. What are your values as a family? For us, we have a statement in there. Who are the Huttons? What do we do? What are we known for? Okay. This is our identity as a family. What do we do on holidays? Like, for us, our traditions, we spend Thanksgiving with friends and Christmas with family. We take 2 major vacations a year, and this is why we do that. We have all these little frameworks laid out in there. There's a whole section on books that I'm collecting, and I update it every year. Again, if something happened to me, here are the 3 books that I want you to read to help manage your health, help manage your mindset, help manage your finances, right? I can't hand over I guess I could hand over the library to my daughter, but we all get overwhelmed. We have short attention spans. Yeah. What are just those 1 or 2 books that were so impactful in your life, that somebody handed down to you and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you. Write all that down in the purpose statement for your trust, and then start training to that.
Love that. It's really good. Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, so tell people, well, you just did, said how to reach you. So we'll put all this in the show notes. And I thank you so much for coming back to be able to tell people about what the book is and how to get it. And so we will let you know when this will air and we can make sure people see it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ginny. And I hope I provided value for everybody listening.
I'm sure you did. Thank you again.